Hi everybody and welcome back to the Nerd Shelves. My name's Michael and today I'm very excited because we are going to be looking at Age of Artisans. It's the expansion to one of my favorite games, the Architects of the West Kingdom. So let's not waste any more time. Come join me at the table and we'll take a look at Age of Artisans. When setting up Age of Artisans, first set up Architects of the West Kingdom as usual. Then place the new dual-layered Guildhall board over the original Guildhall area of the main board. Also, place the Black Market overlay card on the middle space of the Black Market. Shuffle the new craft cards and place them above the Guildhall in a face-down draw pile, revealing 4 cards face up beside the deck. Finally, shuffle the new apprentice and building cards into the corresponding decks from the base game. When choosing colors, players now have 2 new orange characters to choose from and also receive an artisan in their chosen color, which is just a larger meeple. Each player also receives a new player aid. Before the game starts, in reverse turn order, each player can hire, for free, 1 face-up apprentice from the main board. Don't forget to add or take away virtue on the virtue track. We are now ready to play. Other than adding a new player color to choose from, player aids, and new cards to the apprentice and building decks, there are only a couple of new changes to the actual gameplay. First, players now have the option of placing their artisan instead of a worker. The artisan is worth 2 workers when initially placed, but is still only worth 1 when other workers are added to the location. Artisans can still be captured by opponents just like workers, but again, are only worth 1 coin when being sold to the prison. Also, players may ignore 1 virtue loss when placing the artisan at locations such as the tax stand. But probably the biggest change to Architects made by the expansion is the new craft card deck. At the Guildhall, players can now choose to not only construct buildings or work on the cathedral, but also craft adornments or tools. To craft an adornment or tool, instead of placing their worker on an empty spot at the Guildhall, workers are placed on top of workers already placed by that player. If the player does not have a worker at the Guildhall, they cannot craft an adornment or a tool. Once the worker has been placed, the player can now choose one of 2 different actions. First, the player can choose to craft an adornment and add it to one of their buildings. To do this, first the player must pay 5 coins, 2 to the tax stand and 3 to the supply. Then choose one of the face-up craft cards and tuck it under one of their buildings, leaving only the top yellow banner showing. These cards have an immediate effect and reward end-game victory points. Alternatively, players may choose to craft tools, which does not cost any coins, and the card is tucked under one of their apprentices, leaving only the red banner at the bottom of the card visible. These new tools upgrade apprentices' abilities and earn players additional victory points based on how many tools they have crafted. Aside from the 2 usual black market reset spaces, the Guildhall now has 3 spaces which trigger an apprentice reset. When placing a worker on one of these spaces, the apprentice reset is triggered. When this happens, the leftmost apprentices are removed from the game and the apprentice cards slide forward as usual. And finally, a new black market card has been added to the board, allowing players the option to craft a tool if they go to the middle black market space. So there you have it, everybody. The expansion to Architects of the West Kingdom, Age of Artisans. Now, before we talk about the expansion itself, I just want to say that Architects of the West Kingdom was already one of my favorite games. I've talked about it before in other videos, and I just really love that mechanic of placing workers and building up your resources. And the more workers you place, the more resources you get, but your opponents can then go and capture your workers and send them to prison. I just think that was a really clever new twist on the worker placement mechanic. So I really liked Architects of the West Kingdom already. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because if you didn't like Architects of the West Kingdom, I don't think Age of Artisans is going to make you enjoy the game anymore. It doesn't add enough to change the game. It still has the feel of Architects of the West Kingdom. It just adds enough to make it a little bit better. So that being said, what I love about Age of Artisans, well, there's a couple things that I really like about it. First of all, dual layered boards. I'm a sucker for dual layered boards. I know this really doesn't have anything to do with the mechanics of the game, but I just love the fact that they're dual layered. Scythe was a game that had dual layered boards and I just loved it. The Kickstarter Turmoil expansion for Terraforming Mars added the dual layered boards and I'm a sucker for them. I love them. The quality of these are great, so that's one thing I love about it. But the mechanics themselves, it adds just enough. The ability to the top and bottom actions of the boards, 2 actions per card. I just love those in games. I love the fact that you have these cards and you can decide which of the actions you want to do. I think that's great. I also think that adding a little bit more to the black market adds some really positive points to the game. I don't think people were using the black market that much, but I think just adding a little bit more to it, it actually allows people to, or it makes them think a little bit more about whether they want to use the black market or not. The other thing I really like, and you don't need the expansion to do this, but I love the idea of players being able to take some of the cards before the game starts. I think that was a really neat idea. You don't need the expansion to do that. You can do that with the base game. So that was really cool. But like I said, Age of Artisans does not change the game, okay? If you didn't like Architects before, you probably won't like it with the expansion. But it adds enough that it makes people think a little bit more, and it just adds a little bit more depth to the game. So I will never play Architects of the West Kingdom without Age of Artisans again. Okay? So that is my take on Age of Artisans. I hope you enjoyed the video, and why don't you go get another game off of your nerd shelves. Take care. Bye.